Hi band! Welcome to lesson 3 of Carpathia. Today's lesson is going to focus on the beginning to measure 7 of Carpathia. And this part of the piece really sets the mood for everything, so it's super duper important. Before we get started, a little bit of a lesson about the composer of the music, William Owens. Here's a picture of William Owens. He's one of my favorite composers. I think he does a really smart job of making really approachable music for a lot of people, and his music is just really fun, at least for me, to listen to and to play. He grew up in Gary, Indiana, was born in 1963, and he received his music education degree from Vandercook College of Music in Chicago. After 30 years of teaching in Texas, he retired in 2014. He has composed over 200 pieces of music for both band and orchestra. One of my favorite composers. Really enjoy his music. Okay, some interesting things about the music here. The beginning is slow, and this is supposed to represent the distant distress call from the Titanic. Carpathia was very far away, so if you can imagine, way, many miles off in the distance, the Titanic is sinking. It's sending out distress calls. So the slowness is supposed to represent off in the distance we hear the Titanic, okay? There's many independent parts here, meaning that you have to read your own music and not listen to other instruments to know where you come in. You really have to count and know your part. In measure 6, there's a special marking for tempo, and it's called molto rit. This means very slow, or it gets very slow. So at that point, get your eyes up on the conductor, because the conducting is going to slow, really slow there. And then another interesting thing in measure 6, both the flutes and the clarinets, you have what's called a trill. You'll see in your music it says TR, and that means you're going to read the note that's written and then go very fast from that note to the note above, and just do that for the length of the note that is shown there. Okay, let's get to the demonstrations. The first part that I'm going to demonstrate is the snare and bass drum part. You can't see it here, but I brought the drum set bass drum right here, so hopefully you can hear that. Both of you start with 1 measure rest, so when I say the beginning, then you still have 1 measure of rest to go. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, here's the beginning right now. Rest. 2, 3, 4, bass drum roll, boom. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. I went a couple of measures ahead there just so you could hear. We slow down, and then right in measure 7, boom, we go fast. So you got to get your eyes up. You really set the tempo there in measure 7. Okay. I also want to mention, if you're playing suspended cymbal, the suspended cymbal crescendo in measure 1 is super important. So that's a really good part. The next part I'm going to play is the trombone part. Trombone, you share part of the melody here at the beginning. It's very heroic. Yes, we hear you. We're going to save you. Okay, here's the trombone part from the beginning to measure 7. I started too loud. Notice that it actually starts at mezzo piano. 2. 1, 2. I went on into measure 8 just so you could hear those quick eighth notes there. I kind of flubbed the first eighth note, but you'll play it better than I did. Notice I slowed down again at that molto rit, getting very slow. Also, those half rests, trombones, they can be a little tricky to count because it's different than a lot of other parts you hear. Okay, the next part I'm going to play is the first trumpet part, trumpet 1, the high trumpet part. Notice in measure 3, there's a divisi, so you get to choose whether you play the high note or the lower note, okay? And they're really close together, so if you and your neighbor are playing different notes, it's going to sound really weird, but weird is correct in measure 3, okay? Starting quietly. Then we get the foot rumbles right there. I love that part. If you're reading the lower divisi part, you're playing a G in measure 3. Okay? And the next part we're going to listen to, this is actually trumpet 2, just so you can hear that. Okay. Moving on, here's the alto saxophone part. Before I start filming, I forgot to warm this up, so there we go. Okay, you'll see at the very beginning we have some small notes written. Those are cues. Since we have the trumpet part and that's what it's showing, let's not play until it says play in measure 2. So that's on beat 4 of measure 2. Okay, here we go. This is alto 1. 1, 2, beginning here. Rest. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. And I couldn't help myself. I really enjoy that part in measure 8. I went all the way to measure 11. Okay, so that's the alto saxophone part. Next we get to the clarinets. All right, clarinets, we're going to start with 2 measures of rest. This is the first clarinet part, okay? Notice the first clarinets start with a half note and then eighth notes, okay? 1, 2, beginning right here. Rest. 2, 3, 4. 2, 2, 3, 4. Foot rumbles. Cool. Clarinets, first clarinet, you're going to trill from an A to a B flat, okay, in measure 6. You also have a divisi. You can choose to either play the high or the low notes when you get there. In that example, I played the high. Okay, here's the clarinet 2 part. You'll notice that you start with 8th notes in measure 3, and then you have the half note. That's going to be back and forth between the first and second clarinet part. I think that's really cool. It's kind of like waves. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, beginning right now. Rest. 2, 3, 4. 2, 2, 3, 4. Foot rumbles right there. Cool. That's really fun to play, especially with the trills. Okay, and finally, I'm going to demonstrate the flute part. The flute part is pretty similar to the first clarinet part. 1, 2, beginning right here. Rest. 2, 3, 4. 2, 2, 3, 4. Foot rumbles. And flutes, your trill is going to be from G, thumb 1, 2, 3, to A flat. So going from G to the pinky, just doing that really fast in measure 6. All right, band, really fun beginning here. Hope you're having a lot of fun. Happy music making. See you later.